When you pull back your energy, you create a powerful shift that most people never truly understand. You see, energy is not something you can fake. It's not about playing games or trying to make someone jealous. It's about understanding that everything in life operates on a magnetic law. When you stop reaching, when you stop trying to convince, when you stop explaining your worth to someone who already knows it but chooses to ignore it, something extraordinary happens. You start reclaiming your power. You begin to embody a vibration that quietly says, "I am enough without your approval." That energy alone speaks louder than any words ever could. When you withdraw from constant communication or emotional pursuit, the other person feels that energetic absence. It's not just about missing texts or calls. It's about missing your presence, your essence, the emotional warmth you used to pour into the connection. Most people think that love and attraction are maintained through constant engagement, but the truth is, attraction is born in the tension between presence and absence. It's in the stillness, in the space, that desire breathes again. Because when something is always available, it loses its perceived value. Scarcity creates focus. When you are no longer right there, ready to answer, ready to give, ready to fix, your absence becomes a mystery that begins to stir curiosity in the other person's heart. There is a magnetic quality in detachment. You stop radiating the energy of need and start radiating the energy of self-possession. You shift from the frequency of chasing to the frequency of choosing. This shift is powerful because it flips the dynamic. It moves the relationship from imbalance to equilibrium. Instead of him feeling like he's being pursued, he begins to feel the quiet pressure of missing you. He starts wondering where your attention went, and more importantly, who has it now. That wondering grows into longing. Longing grows into realization. Realization leads him right back to the door he once walked away from. Every human being is drawn to what they can't easily have. When a man feels your absence after you've pulled back, it activates something primal within him. The mind starts to replay moments, recall memories, and question decisions. It's not manipulation, it's natural law. Because when you were giving everything, he didn't have to think, he didn't have to wonder, he didn't have to earn it. But now, the silence has created a void, and that void demands his attention. Silence becomes louder than any argument. Distance becomes the teacher he never expected. Pulling back your energy is not punishment, it's preservation. It's about protecting your peace, your power, your worth. It's about recognizing that your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves front row access to it. When you step back, the universe begins to realign the energy between you. Suddenly, the imbalance that existed before begins to correct itself. You stop feeding into the dynamic that drained you, and by doing that, you naturally raise your vibration. And energy, real, aligned energy always attracts back what matches it. If he's capable of meeting you at that new frequency, he'll return differently. But if he's not, your peace will protect you from reopening what no longer serves your growth. The beauty of pulling back is that it's not about control. It's about flow. You're not trying to force anything. You're simply allowing energy to settle where it belongs. In that quiet detachment, you teach through example. You show what it means to love without losing yourself. You show that your value does not decrease because someone failed to see it. You show that distance does not mean disinterest. It means discernment. You're choosing to stop giving access to your emotions to someone who hasn't earned the right to hold them. And that kind of self-respect radiates in ways that words never can. Men feel this even when they don't understand it. They can't always articulate it, but they sense it. The emotional shift is undeniable. Where there was once the comfort of knowing you'd always be there, now there's uncertainty. That uncertainty breeds awareness. He starts to realize the effort you gave, the love you offered, the consistency you embodied. He begins to see what life feels like without your energy filling his space. And suddenly, the silence he thought he wanted becomes the silence he can't stand. The law of emotional polarity says that when one energy retreats, the other advances. It's how balance is restored. When you were constantly reaching out, explaining, fixing, or hoping, you were the advancing energy. The more you gave, the less he had to. The more you pursued, the more he retreated. But when you stop, when you truly stop, not pretending to stop but emotionally releasing, it flips. The energy reverses. The moment you no longer chase, he begins to feel the pull, because energy, when left unbalanced, seeks correction. It's universal, and that correction often comes in the form of him returning, seeking to reconnect with the energy that once made him feel seen, admired, and understood. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects his own absence. He starts to feel the void he once created. And in that stillness, he begins to remember who you were before the disappointment, before the exhaustion, before you started trying so hard to hold it all together. He remembers the woman who moved with ease, with confidence, with grace, and he realizes that he doesn't just miss you. He misses the way he felt when he was with you. That's the real power of emotional polarity. When you shift inward, when you focus on your own light, you awaken something dormant in the other person. You remind them of the vibration they once resonated with. And that reminder draws them back, not through force, but through the quiet magnetism of your renewed strength and self. Worth the moment you stop chasing and start valuing yourself, you shift the entire vibration of your existence. You begin to move differently, think differently, speak differently. There's an invisible transformation that takes place when you finally decide that your peace, your energy, and yourself worth matter more than someone's inconsistent attention. You start realizing that your energy is not a currency to be spent on proving your value to someone who's blind to it. You stop begging for crumbs when you know you carry the whole feast within you. And that shift, that sacred redirection of energy, changes everything about how people experience you. When you were chasing, your energy was scattered. It was reaching outward, constantly trying to grasp something that kept slipping away. You were trying to convince someone to see what was already clear. But when you finally pull back and focus inward, that same energy becomes centered. It becomes magnetic instead of desperate. You start radiating a confidence that doesn't scream or demand, it simply is. You begin to carry a quiet knowing that says, I'm not waiting for anyone to validate me. I already am enough. And that kind of vibration cannot be ignored. It commands respect without ever asking for it. Men feel that shift long before they see it. When your energy changes, everything about the dynamic changes too. The conversations sound different. The silence feels different. The way you move through life starts to reflect a woman who has reconnected with her power. You are no longer the one bending to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You are the one setting the tone. You're not driven by fear of losing them anymore. You're guided by love for yourself. That is the moment the energy field between you begins to reverse. Where you once felt like the one being pulled, you become the one who naturally draws. Energy doesn't lie. It carries truth more clearly than words ever could. When your self-worth expands, your vibration rises, and people can sense it even from afar. They might not be able to explain what changed, but they'll feel the difference. The calls become more frequent. The messages come quicker. The curiosity grows stronger. Because when someone once felt they had all of you without effort, and now they sense that your energy is no longer accessible, it awakens something in them. They start wondering what happened, what shifted, what made you so unavailable. They start remembering the warmth you brought and realize it wasn't guaranteed. It was a gift. This shift is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about finally caring enough for yourself to stop giving where it drains you. You stop chasing validation because you've realized that self-worth is not built from someone else's approval. It's built from your own recognition of who you are. You no longer look outward for confirmation. You look inward for clarity. That inner clarity changes your posture, your tone, your presence. It creates a natural boundary that says, you can meet me where I am, or you can watch me from afar, but I'm no longer lowering my energy to be understood. When you reach this place, you begin to move and flow with your own truth. You start honoring your time, protecting your energy, nurturing your peace. You begin to glow differently because you're no longer chasing what's running. You've learned that what is truly meant for you doesn't need to be chased. It meets you at your level of growth. And men, whether they admit it or not, are drawn to that kind of self-assured energy. It's not about the words you say. It's about the frequency you emit. It's the calm in your voice, the confidence in your silence, the grace in your boundaries. When a woman steps into her self-worth, she no longer gives her energy away cheaply. She doesn't explain herself endlessly. She doesn't justify why she deserves to be loved correctly. She understands that her presence is already a blessing. She knows that whoever walks away is simply making room for someone who can see her fully. That inner knowing becomes her power. And that power, once reclaimed, becomes magnetic. The same man who once overlooked her starts to notice. The same man who thought she would always be available begins to feel her absence like a weight. He may not understand why he feels drawn back, but energetically he senses the shift. He's no longer chasing a woman seeking his validation. He's drawn toward a woman standing in her self-respect. That's the paradox of energy when you finally stop trying to prove your worth. The world starts reflecting it back to you. You start attracting situations, people, and opportunities that match your new vibration. You're no longer resonating with low-frequency behavior, and anyone who wants to stay connected to you has to rise to meet you there. That's why, after no contact, many men return not because you chased them, but because you stopped. You stopped feeding the dynamic that kept you small. You stopped giving your energy to someone who hadn't earned it. And by doing that, you became scarce in the best way possible. You became the energy they crave but can no longer access at will. Every time you choose self-worth over desperation, you reinforce a powerful message to the universe. I am ready for more. And the universe responds by rearranging everything to match that declaration. The same person who took your presence for granted begins to feel your absence as a loss. He starts to recognize that the love you gave wasn't ordinary. It was rare, it was steady, it was healing. And when he feels that, the energy between you starts to realign. Because when you raise your vibration, the connection either elevates with you, or it fades away. But either way, you win because you've returned to your own power. When you value yourself, you stop begging for attention and you start embodying attraction. You stop asking for permission to be loved and start giving that love to yourself first. That's when everything changes, not because you forced anyone to see you, but because you finally saw yourself. And the world, including that man, begins to respond to the version of you that no longer chases, no longer pleads, no longer settles, but simply knows when a man experiences silence from a woman who once gave him her full attention. It becomes an awakening he never saw coming. Silence is not empty. It is full of echoes, full of memories, full of the presence that used to fill his world. When you step back and stop reaching out, stop explaining, stop pouring your energy into someone who didn't value it, that silence starts to speak louder than your words ever did. It begins to whisper to him in the quiet moments of his day. It follows him in the car when the music isn't loud enough to drown out his thoughts. It visits him at night when he checks his phone and realizes your name hasn't appeared in a while. That's when reflection begins. That's when realization sets in. The human mind is wired to crave what once brought it comfort and validation. When your voice disappears, when your warmth fades, it triggers an emotional withdrawal that forces him to confront himself. Suddenly, he remembers the laughter, the kindness, the softness you brought into his life. He starts to think about the things you said that he brushed off at the time. Every small moment starts replaying like an old movie he didn't appreciate when it was first showing. It's not that your absence punishes him, it awakens him, because when something consistent suddenly stops, it creates space for the truth to echo back. He starts to see not only what he lost, but why he lost it. Reflection is a powerful mirror, and silence is the light that makes that reflection clear. In your absence, he begins to see the contrast between how he felt when you were there and how he feels now. Before, he was comfortable, maybe even complacent, because your love felt certain, predictable, guaranteed. But when that certainty vanishes, when the attention that once wrapped around him is no longer there, it disturbs his emotional balance. That disturbance becomes a call to awareness. He begins to ask questions he never asked before. Why did she stop calling? Why did she stop trying? Did I push too hard? Did I take her for granted? Those questions start as curiosity, but quickly turn into realization. Realization doesn't hit all at once. It builds slowly. It starts with a random thought about you during his lunch break, then another one later that night when he scrolls through old photos or messages. He might try to shake it off, tell himself he's fine, that he's moved on. But silence doesn't let him off that easily. It keeps speaking to him, softly but persistently. It reminds him of how you made him feel, safe, seen, appreciated. It brings him face to face with the part of himself that was better when he was with you. Because that's the truth about genuine energy. It leaves an imprint. You can walk away physically, but your essence lingers. And when you've been authentic, nurturing, and loving, that energy is unforgettable. This is why many men return after no contact, not because they suddenly discovered something new about you, but because your silence gave them the space to rediscover what they already knew but refused to acknowledge. It's not until the noise stops that people hear clearly. When you stop talking, your absence becomes the message. When you stop trying, your peace becomes the lesson. And when you stop showing up, your silence becomes the mirror that forces him to see who he was when he had you. That reflection can be uncomfortable because it exposes everything he ignored. The moments he dismissed you, the times he failed to listen, the love he didn't match. Silence brings all of that to the surface. Reflection changes people because it interrupts their patterns. When you were constantly available, his pattern was easy. He could reach for you when he wanted, pull away when he didn't. But when that pattern breaks, he's forced to confront the emptiness he created. It's no longer about you calling or texting. It's about him realizing that the energy that once filled his days is gone. He might try to replace it, distract himself, or run from it, but energy doesn't duplicate. What was genuine can't be copied. What was real can't be replaced. He starts to see that what you offered wasn't ordinary affection. It was presence. And presence, once lost, becomes priceless. Your silence gives him the classroom he never knew he needed. It teaches him what words couldn't. It shows him that love isn't sustained by one person doing all the work. It teaches him that your attention was not his right, it was your gift. And when he realizes that, it shifts something deep inside him. He begins to replay conversations in his mind, think about what he could have said differently, what he should have done differently. That's the power of reflection. It doesn't just remind, it transforms. It takes him from thinking she'll always be there to I can't believe she's gone. That's when realization dawns, heavy and undeniable. The beauty of this process is that you don't have to do anything for it to happen. You don't have to force his awareness. You don't have to send messages or prove a point. Silence is the most eloquent language there is when spoken with self-worth. It tells him everything he needs to know without a single word. It reminds him that you are not someone who chases, you are someone who chooses. And when he begins to reflect on that truth, he sees the contrast between your peace and his chaos, your grace and his confusion, your absence and his longing. Realization brings clarity, and clarity brings humility. The same man who once thought he could take his time now realizes time has moved without him. The same man who thought you'd wait forever now understands that silence is not waiting, it's healing. He sees the version of you that existed before the pain, and he remembers the woman who gave without conditions. That memory doesn't fade. It deepens. It becomes the reason he returns, not just to you, but to the energy he once took for granted. Because in that silence, he learned that losing access to your presence means losing access to a part of himself that only your energy awakened, and that realization changes everything about how he sees love, connection, and what it truly means to have, and lose someone real.